So Phil, thank you for hanging out. I mean, ultimately, I love the fact that you're part of student ministries, but also the fact that you've been at the church longer than me, and
by a month or what?
yeah, like a whole month. I think it was yeah. But
you have babies longer than me though. So.
That's true. I have a vivid memory of you holding my baby
while my baby was in my wife's tummy.
Yeah, exactly. I love hearing your story. I've loved that you. I mean, you teach in high school often and share your heart. When did the Lord really get a hold of your heart? At what point was there that transition from, when did it really change for you to know and have your faith be your own?
I have a very vivid memory of that. I think it was 18. I'd say a very vivid memory. And then I think it was 18. I was actually at, it was a concert at a church I was previously attending. It was the Paul Coleman Trio. It's, I think they're from Australia or something. Okay. They play those big didgeridoos and stuff. It's pretty cool. And at this point, it's like, I grew up in church. Like, my entire life. I can remember going to, VBSs, and every summer they'd be like, who wants to accept Jesus? Come up to the front. I'm 5 years old. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And I run up there and then get a little Bible and stuff. And did it every summer until I was probably 15. And I remember just like knowing what the Bible said, knowing what my youth pastor was going to say. I knew the stories, but it never connected personally and intimately with my heart. And so at this concert, Paul Coleman Trio, in between a couple of their songs, their sets, they started talking about how it's not about a religion, but it's about a relationship with God. And it was like, I guarantee you I'd heard my youth pastor say that 100 times. But for some reason, when Paul Coleman said it, he said, it's not about a religion. It's not about these to-dos and like your to-do list and your obligations. But he's like, it's about a relationship with your creator. I just remember being like, I don't have that. Like I have a checklist. I have a read my Bible. I have a go to church. I have a you should pray every day. You should, like, I had a list of things, and it wasn't anything that was intimately close to my heart. And I remember they did like an altar call. It's like, come accept Jesus. And I'm like, I was 5 years old again. Like I ran up to the front at 18 years old, like in high school, and I went up there to the front to go accept the Lord in front of all the people at this, this concert that was at the church I was attending. And, I remember some of the older gentlemen were there. I was like, oh, Phil, did you come up here with someone? Like they were so confused that I was up there accepting Jesus at 18, being in this church my whole life. And it was just like, no, I'm here for me. Like I got it. Like I finally understood the grace and the love, and it wasn't something I was going to earn. It wasn't something I had to do, but it was a gift, and I responded to it, and it finally was like, it connected. And so that was my initial really understanding the gospel, understanding grace, understanding relationship.
Maybe I've heard that before, but I'm not sure that I have.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that you had grown up in the church and that you would, like, it was later on that it really clicked for you, that you were like, wow, I want to follow Jesus with my life. And it is always funny, those times where the truth may have been heard, the seeds have been planted of truth, but then for them to actually, like, the knowledge to come to full understanding of what the gospel is, and going, oh yeah, it isn't about the checklist. It isn't about, yeah.
Oh, I'm getting old. My hips don't move like these.
And they don't lie. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the aspects of, I love doing youth ministry with you, because you do have a heart for the lost, and the lost isn't just this construct, a monolith of those that are out there that we don't know. But what do you think has fostered that in your own life, of just having a care or concern for those that are outside the church, outside the four walls of this building?
My dad asked me a very similar question when I was younger. Basically about, like, like, why do you follow Christ? Like, why do you believe what you believe, in a sense of like, why is there a purpose to reach out to others? And I remember just being like, it was almost like the Lord just like gave me the words at the time when I was talking to him. And it was just, I've never experienced a greater love. I've never known a greater love than my Savior. Not in this entire world. And so for that, it's like it's like you always hear the stories, like when people try to translate it and be like, oh, it's like when you're a beggar and like someone showed you where bread was. And you were like so thankful that like you had the food to eat and you had the bread. And then there's all these other beggars and it's like, oh, who would I be if I wasn't like, hey guys, there's food. Oh, there's a buffet over here. Like it's free. Come get it. Just knowing that love and knowing that truth, it's like God's just like, what else is there in this life? Like what else is there anything else more important than that truth and that life and that relationship with Jesus? So yeah, so truly knowing that gift that he's given me of forgiveness of my sins, the things that he has just given me, the life, eternity with him, and that others need that. I don't know, just feel like he's just put it there. So, I mean, it's not like I've constructed something of myself, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like God gives you a heart and a passion for others when it's his work. So
well, I think it's been cool to see God taking you on a journey these last couple of years with work. What would you be willing to share a little bit just about, I mean, even going back to a few years ago where, anyway, yeah, it's your story to share, but would you share some of that?
Yeah. It's almost funny when God gives you something that you ask for, and when you get it, you don't really know if you wanted it. And I feel like that's the last couple of years have been that for me. It was something that I was in a position, and there was a great opportunity arose in the county I'm in, and I had applied for this job and was praying about it, and it was kind of like in my mind, I was like, this would be my dream job, and I'm not qualified for it. I don't have the degree or the pedigree to get to the position I'm in, but for some reason I had got an interview, and then I got a second interview, and then I had a third interview, and I'm sitting there with all these educational professionals in the county, and I remember like we were just talking about so many different things, and at the end of the interview it was more of a casual conversation where like they got through the normal questions, and basically the superintendent of schools had asked me, it was like they were just talking about working and excellence and what drives us and motivates us, and had asked me personally like what drives you in your work to like provide excellence. And the only thing that went through my mind was like, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I've known such great love that I want to offer that back to other people. And that when I work and when I serve kids in a community, I serve them like they're my own kids. And I want to honor God in all that I do, all that I touch, and truly just kind of took it back to, he's like, you know what, I want to follow the Lord. It's like, he's loved me so well, I want to love him back. And by loving him, it's loving God, loving others. And it was just, I want to love others the way that he's loved me, because it's truly just it's a life of joy, and it's not always easy, which I've come to find out. So in the last couple of years being in my new position, part of my role has to do with emergency response in the county. And that has to do with the last couple of years, we've had some pretty big fires in the county. And it was, Caldor came through last year, and then we had the mosquito fire this year. And that really impacted my home life, my family, where my responsibilities and like this job and the weight of the position almost almost was a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. To where it was like, it was my mom's 60th birthday, and she had, like paid for all of my siblings and family members. She rented a house over in Hawaii and was like, hey, we're going to Hawaii for my 60th birthday. I'm paying for everyone to go. And I ended up not being able to go because of the position I held in my new job, and being part of that emergency response coordinator for all the schools in El Dorado County. And it was something where I had to make the decision. It wasn't that I wasn't being told I couldn't go. It was Phil, this is your role. And, best case scenario, if you go, nothing happens. Worst case scenario, if you leave and there's some huge thing happening in the county when we're evacuating more and more families and more schools, and you're needed and you're not here, like it's a heavy thing to leave behind. So I had to make the decision, and I felt like I was breaking my kids and my wife's heart to be like, hey guys, I'm not gonna be able to go on this trip with you, even though it's your first time going over to the islands, and it's my mom's 60th birthday, and my nieces and nephews and my brothers and my sister and my mom, everyone was heading over there. They ended up taking off and going, and I stayed back, and I fulfilled my role at work, which was something that I had committed to them. And it was tough. I was in this place where I wanted to honor my family, but I also needed to honor my employer and the commitments I made to them to love them like I love them the way Jesus would love them, and sacrifice my desires and wants for the needs of the community and the people I was serving. And it stretches you and makes you grow, and you have to consider others better than yourself, and realize that the needs of a community, when people are being evacuated from their homes and losing homes, to have the empathy and the ability to relate to them and be like, oh, you're losing your home and I'm upset that I don't get to go sit on a beach. It really puts things in perspective, and it humbles you, and almost to the point of like, why am I so upset? And I'm like, this family just lost their home and they're living in a trailer or someone else's trailer in a parking lot. My new role, I was also responsible for all the PPE for the county, for all school districts. It's personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, face shields, anything you name that will protect you from getting diseases. So people would want to have all these. They want to have, everyone needed a disposable face mask. Everyone needed gloves. Everyone needed hand sanitizer. Everyone needed a face shield with a neck drape. Everyone, it's like the amount of things that were like, people were freaking out about and needed, like everyone needed an air purifier in the room. Everyone needed 6 feet of separation. So they had to move desks, had to move tables, had to pull things out of classrooms, had to move stuff around the campus. It was just always, the spotlight had never been so heavy on custodial cleaning procedures and maintenance of air conditioning ducts and air filters and all the stuff that you put in those. And all of a sudden there's this spotlight on maintenance and on custodial and on the team I work with, and they were scrutinized. And it was like, are you cleaning door handles every 3 hours? Are you disinfecting toilets and sinks and restrooms? And the amount of things the expectations that were thrown on me and my team were, it was very, very hefty. And I remember it was, I think it was last year at some point. We were probably a year into this thing, and it was like there was so much going on and so much pressure and so much stress and so much like everyone needed everything now, things that weren't available because the rest of the world was buying the same things at the same time. And I just remember I got to this place where I was sitting at the end of the day at work, and I was just feeling funny. Like my heart was feeling funny, and I started feeling a little lightheaded, and then I got a little sweaty. And I remember talking to one of the soups at work, and I was like, I'm not feeling right. Like my heart's like skipping beats, and I was like having these like weird palpitations, and he's like, so I'm gonna take you to the ER. So I ended up, going to the emergency room, and they throw me on the EKG machine, and they're watching my heart like beep 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 boop, beep 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 boop, boop, beep beep beep, and like it's just going bananas. And they're like, yeah, you're having heart palpitations, like you're gonna have to wear this monitor for 24 hours. And they strapped me up, and I had a heart monitor for 24 hours walking around, and I had to record a little notebook every time I felt something weird in my chest. And at the end of the day, they're like, oh, guess what? You're stressed out. Like, Go figure. I'm stressed at work. And it was like one more thing I felt like God was just growing me in. And I was like, I was trying to do everything by myself. I wasn't fully trusting in him. I wasn't relying on him. I wasn't getting my peace from him, from his word. And I feel like I was so focused on myself and the problems that I let all these, these little molehill problems, in reality, what they are, like, grow into giant mountains. And I lost sight of how big my God is. And I feel like God's been just reminding me that this stuff's going to pass, and that he's going to get me through the storms, not necessarily out of them. But he's there every step of the way. And he's a strength that I just need to remember to tie myself to. And it's like he provides that strength. He provides that nourishment, that just ability to have peace that just passes understanding in the midst of, crazy storms. And yeah, I feel like he's really been challenging me to just rely on him and trust him in the middle of craziness, when things are unpredictable and we're in unprecedented times.
God has called you to be a light in darkness, right? And it's evident that God has called you in your vocation to be a light. Do you have any stories or any things that you could share about how God's used you, how he has been the rock and the light in those situations? Is there anything that you're like, yeah, actually I feel like God's let me do this in this position?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Okay. Done.
That's a wrap. Yeah, being in a public sector, there's definitely like this kind of this understanding that you're not going to proselytize and really, go above and beyond of just being like preachy at work, because it's the expectation you don't do that. But there's nothing about not loving other people and loving them well, and speaking about, what you did on the weekend. Now I'm like, I went to church, and I went to my daughter's softball game, and I haven't been to church because my daughter's playing softball 2 months. But you start to get a feel and a sense of when you can move forward in those conversations and relationships with the folks you work with. And it's been really cool. Had some really great conversations with other employees, other staff members, and even just asking kind of where they're at, and discussing, kind of opening the door and letting them talk about like where they're at in their faith or what they believe, or and it's cool to see what God does with those things. And you gotta be very sensitive and careful. But what you do in the public sector and the work that you do, me specifically, is like you have an opportunity to love others and love them well. And even when someone's going through hard times, it seems like that's usually a pretty easy way to even let them know that you're praying for them, or if there's something going on, and asking questions about their family and where they're at. And God has really, he's opened up doors for me with many of folks that I work with, and had deeper conversations where you can kind of get to a place in a relationship where you're comfortable with them and they're comfortable with you, and they don't feel like you're necessarily preaching at them, but just having a conversation and really just growing in your relationship with them to a place where you have a platform of trust and love where you can speak into their life. Where I am and what I do, it is very much, it's service oriented. And when you can wrap your service around loving people well and caring for them well, and they feel that and they know that, and then they come to find out, it's like, oh, Phil loves Jesus, or like, oh, he goes to church, or whatever it is, like, and you start connecting dots where you're different. They see different. They they just see integrity, they see honesty, they see follow through, they see that you care for them. He's like all the attributes of Christ that we are trying to just to emulate and to be and to love well. I think people see that. I think Jesus at the end of the day is the one that's going to draw them. And so at work, whether if you're, out on the street preaching Jesus, or if you're loving your neighbor well, I think you're doing the work that God's called you to do. And I feel like God has called me to the position I'm in. It's a lot heavier of a position and weighty than I thought it was. But in the same time, God is stretching me. He is growing me. He is challenging me to be a better leader, to be a better husband, to be a better communicator. I feel like just like in my nature, when we're talking about like being spontaneous and being on the fly, and just you need chaos. You need trying to remember what I used to call it. Like I used to call it shenanigans with Phil. Like we'd go on a Mexico trip, or we'd do some youth retreat. And it was like, oh, you need some shenanigans? Yeah, let's go. I'm like, I got you covered. Like we'll go do some shenanigans. Get in trouble.
Noches de destrucción.
Yeah, we'll go sneak into the cafe in the middle of the night at a camp and find cookies in the freezer, and we'll eat them cold.
We'll go in the attic. No?
Yeah, we'll break in and unlock some doors, climb into an attic. That could be fun if someone were to do that.
Hypothetically speaking.
If someone had done that, it could have been a great time.
Yeah, it could have.
But I feel like the Lord has been growing me in so many other areas that is making me, just rounding me off. Like iron sharpens iron. Like you got to knock off a bunch of rough edges, and I feel like God's knocking off some of my rough edges when it comes to personal things, but also like it's easy to get bitter about stuff and to get into a mindset, like a victim mentality, and to get to a place where like, oh, I don't get to do this because this is happening. And it's in reality, it's like getting out of that and being like, you know what? No, I am so blessed by God. I am doing something that I asked him for. I have a job and a position that I prayed for and he gave me. And then I turn around and whine that it's so tough and I have anxiety and I'm going to the hospital because I'm so stressed out. And I'm like, oh, I forgot he gave me what I wanted. So getting back to a heart of gratitude and thankfulness for my Savior, knowing that he's put me in this position in this point in my life and is going to be enough. And that I'm doing what he's called me to do, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability with the most thankful, grateful heart that I can have. It makes it a lot more joyful. Yeah. So, and being joyful at work is attractive. If you work with someone who's joyful, not the annoying joyful, not like this always singing dumb songs, but like, or just like hopped up on too much caffeine. You know that guy. But just someone who's truly just a joy to be around and kind and interested in your life and asking questions. And so to be able to encourage folks, even when they're having a rough day, and, try to bring a little laugh, a little smile to their face and cheer them up a bit, and, just add a little Jesus to it. That's part of my job. It's like you get to do your work and pour into the lives and the relationships of others while you're at it. And it's funny because like I can even think today, there's a gal that's subbing at the front desk, and I'd been on vacation for just about a week or so, and I got back yesterday and I came walking in and I was just like, good morning, Miss Ann, and just saying hi in my stupid goofy way, and other people, they get top of the morning or whatever, but Ann is good morning, Miss Ann, and I came and she was like, Phil, she's like, you have been missed around here. Like, and just started just encouraging and just talking about, it's like, your joyful spirit and just, you're just a light in this place. And I've had good conversations with this sub secretary. It's really awesome to be able to plug into people's lives and just encourage and love.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me. I'm grateful truly to do life with you and be able to see God work, and it's really cool to see the opportunity that God's opened up for you, and even your acknowledgement, of it. it's his provision, for you.
But you know what they say? More money, more problems.
That is what they say.